Welcome to the last 2 pages in Unit 8. Now, we got here some listening to do, so I want you first to think about what is the coldest or hottest place you've ever been in your life. Try to reflect on this experience or write about it under the video. And then let's move to these two girls here. We're going to listen to them and answer these questions. So let's do it together. First, I want you to read the questions. Okay. And we're going to start with Simone here. And after that, we're going to move to Anna. So let's try to listen and answer the questions.
Tape script 8.10. Simone.
Well, it was when I was living in Cairo, and it was in the middle of the summer, so it was extremely hot, between 40 and 45 degrees centigrade. And stupidly, we decided to go dancing. And we went to this nightclub, and we must have danced for hours and hours. And it was very hot inside the nightclub, and we were sweating profusely. And by the time we came out, it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and we decided, wouldn't it be a great idea to go to the pyramids to see the sunrise? So we jumped in a taxi, and the taxi was also quite stuffy and hot, and we must have been starting to dehydrate at this point. Anyway, we got to the pyramids, and the sun was just starting to come up, and in Egypt, as soon as the sun comes up, the temperature rises dramatically. But we were so excited at seeing the pyramids that we decided just to go and walk and see. At this point, a man approached us and asked us if we wanted to borrow his motorbike or hire his motorbike. And so we said yes. So my friend and I, we jumped onto the motorbike and raced out into the desert, only to find, after about 10-15 minutes, that the motorbike was rather old, and suddenly it broke down. So we were miles from anywhere and had to push this motorbike to get back. I was the one at the back pushing the motorbike, and of course I was using lots of energy. I was losing a lot of fluid, and it was getting hotter and hotter. Anyway, we ended up having to walk back to the village to give the motorbike back to the man. And by this time, we were rather fed up and tired and very hot, so we decided to go home. By the time we got home, I did start to feel a bit strange. I had a bit of a headache, and I decided to go straight to bed. Anyway, I woke up about half an hour later, feeling rather confused and sick, a bit nauseous, and I realized that my brain wasn't working properly, and that in fact I probably had heat exhaustion. Anyway, it wasn't very pleasant, and it was a lesson in what not to do in such temperatures. I've never done that again. I always carry my rehydration salts with me.
All right, so let's try to answer the questions together. So question number 1 was, where was she? In Cairo. And number 2, what was the temperature between 40 and 45 degrees? Okay. And number 3, what did she do that was stupid or silly that she went dancing and it was extremely hot and she got dehydrated? And number 4, what kind of transport did she use? She got a taxi, motorbike, and she walked. And number 5, where was she going to and why? She wanted to go to the pyramids to see the sunrise, and in a hot weather, And number 6, what did she see when she arrived? A man in the village, that the sun was starting to come up. And number 7, who did she meet, and was this person helpful? She met a man in a village with a motorbike, and he wasn't helpful because the motorbike was very old and it broke down. And number 8, how did the temperature affect her? She became dehydrated and lost energy, and she had a headache, and she got very sick, and her brain wasn't working properly because of the heat exhaustion. And the last one, what happened in the end? She learned a lesson that she wouldn't do something like that in such a hot, high temperature. And she started to carry rehydration salts with her. Now we're going to listen to Anna's story and also take notes with the same questions.
Tape script 8.11. Anna.
The time that I was very, very cold was a time when I was working in Russia, in a small town in central Russia. And I was going to see some friends who lived on the outskirts of the town. And they were worried about me getting lost, and they said that they'd come to the tram stop to meet me. But I wanted to be independent, so I told them, don't be silly, of course I'll find it. And on the day of the visit, it was very, very cold. It might have been -30, but it might have been colder than that. And it was so cold that at some of the tram stops and bus stops there were bonfires lit, special street fires, to keep people warm. And I think it was a day when the schools were closed, when the children didn't go to school because it was so cold. So I put on all the clothes that I had, all the scarves and jumpers, and I took the tram to the outskirts of the town where my friends lived. And it was right way out to the end of the line. And I got off the tram, which was heated, into this cold, white world. And it was so cold that when you breathed in, little balls of ice formed in your nostrils. You had to keep a scarf over your mouth and nose. About 2 minutes after getting off the tram, my feet and hands were already hurting. They were so cold. So I was walking around trying to find the flat, but it was completely anonymous, this landscape. And there were these huge snow-covered white blocks, these buildings of 15 or 16 floors, but they all looked exactly the same, and I couldn't find the name of the street either. And it was very, very quiet, and the tram had gone. And I began actually to get very frightened because I was feeling so cold. My feet and hands had gone beyond hurting, almost. I couldn't feel them anymore. It was quite difficult to breathe because of the icy scarf over my mouth and nose. And I just couldn't find where they lived. And I asked an old lady the way, but my Russian wasn't good enough. She didn't understand me. And I was beginning to really seriously panic when suddenly in the distance I saw my friends. They'd come to find me, and they took me home.
All right, so let's try to answer the same questions together. So number 1, the answer will be in a small town in central Russia. And number 2, -30 or colder. Number 3, she wanted to be independent, so she told her friends she could find their house without getting lost, and she should have let her friends meet her at the tram stop. Number 4, tram and walking. Number 5, to see some friends on the outskirts of town. And number 6, it was an anonymous landscape with a huge huge snow-covered white blocks, 15 or 16 floors high. Number 7, the answer was an old lady. She wasn't very helpful because she couldn't understand Anna and her Russian wasn't good enough. Number 8, she felt frightened because she was feeling so cold. So she couldn't feel her feet or her hands, and it was really difficult to breathe. And the last question, her friends came to find her and took her home. So good for her. Now let's move on to these sentences here. Let's try to complete them together. So you can take a look at them, read them, and then we're going to revise the answers together. Okay, so it was hot and we decided to go dancing. So you can say it was extremely hot and stupidly we decided to go dancing. Number 2, we were sweating profusely. Number 3, the temperature rises dramatically. My brain wasn't working properly. Number 5, it was completely anonymous, this landscape. And number 6, they all looked exactly the same. And number 7, I was beginning to really seriously panic. That's very good. All right, so we're going to take a look at the last listening that we have, and we're going to try to match them together. This is like adding a comment after a certain sentence as a reaction to what was said, in a way to be polite or to show that we have thought about it. So let's listen together.
Tape script 8.12.
We went dancing in temperatures of over 40 degrees centigrade, which was rather a stupid thing to do.
2.
My friends were worried I'd get lost, which was understandable.
3.
We visited the pyramids at sunrise, which was just amazing.
4.
My nostrils actually froze, which is hard to believe.
5.
This motorbike broke down in the desert, which was no laughing matter.
6.
The old lady didn't understand a word I said, which is hardly surprising because my Russian's lousy.
All right, so let's read the sentences together. So number 1, we went dancing in temperatures of over 40, which was rather a stupid thing to do. Number 2, my friends were worried I'd get lost, which was understandable. Number 3, we visited the pyramids at sunrise, which was just amazing. And number 4, my nostrils actually froze, which is hard to believe. And number 5, this motorbike broke down in the desert, which was no laughing matter. And number 6, the old lady didn't understand a word I said, which is hardly surprising because my Russians. Now let's move to the last page of our unit. Now we got some exclamations that are constructed with how and what. So we can use them in this way. We can use what plus an adjective plus plural or countable noun, like for example, what fabulous shoes or what awful music. Or we can say what a or an plus the adjective plus singular countable noun, like for example, what a lovely surprise or what an idiot. How could be plus an adjective, like for example, how nice or how strange. So we got here these exclamations. So we're going to listen to some situations and we're going to try to respond to them using these exclamations over here. So let's listen to them together.
Script 8.13. 1.
My sister has just given birth to twins.
2.
Let's go away for the weekend. It's been ages since we've had a break.
3.
I failed my driving test on just one thing. I turned left instead of right.
4.
More than 50 people were injured in the motorway pile-up.
5.
Look at the state of this room. There's stuff everywhere.
6.
It's been pouring down for days.
7.
The phone operator said I had to ring back later, but he wouldn't give me a direct number.
8.
Our dog went missing for 3 days, and then she just turned up, as large as life.
9.
The minister said they would reduce unemployment by 10% in 6 months.
10.
My mum has had a knee operation, but it hasn't really helped her very much.
All right, so let's say them together. So number 1, how wonderful, because she just gave birth to twins. Number 2, what a brilliant idea. Number 3, what a silly mistake. Number 4, what a terrible thing to happen. Number 5, what a mess. Number 6, what dreadful weather. And number 7, how utterly ridiculous. And number 8, what a relief. Number 9, what rubbish. And number 10, how awful. All right. So we got here also some exclamations from the box, and we're going to listen and try to use them. Okay, so let's listen together.
Tape script 8.14. 1,
How's your steak? Is it okay?
2,
We were all going on holiday to Spain next week. We were really looking forward to it, but my father's been quite ill, so we had to cancel it.
3,
Has Anne had the baby yet? It must be due any time now.
Oh, yes. Haven't you heard? She didn't have one baby. She had 3. Tom's the father of triplets.
4,
Mind your head as you come through this door. It's very low.
5,
Do be careful, that bowl's really heavy.
6,
Did you know that they eat horse meat in some countries? And snails? And pig's feet?
7,
Look! Isn't that Peter over there, sitting on his own?
8,
Tomorrow's test has been cancelled.
All right, so let's do them together. So okay, let's start it by order, okay, the order of the sentences. So we can say, whoops, I dropped it, sorry about that. It's absolutely delicious. Ooh, what a relief, thank goodness for that. Wow, how amazing. And yeah, that's disgusting. Oh dear, what a shame. Ouch, that really hurt. And the last one, hey Peter, come over here and sit with us. Okay, so let's have the last listening that we got together. Okay, so we got this listening here. We're going to listen and try to complete the extra lines from the conversation. Okay, let's go.
tape script 8.15. 1,
How's your steak? Is it okay?
It's absolutely delicious. Just the way I like it.
2,
We were all going on holiday to Spain next week. We were really looking forward to it, but my father's been quite ill, so we had to cancel it.
Oh dear, what a shame. You must be so disappointed.
3,
Has Anne had the baby yet? It must be due any time now.
Oh, yes. Haven't you heard? She didn't have one baby. She had 3. Tom's the father of triplets.
Wow, how amazing. Triplets. That'll keep them busy.
4,
Mind your head as you come through this door. It's very low.
Ouch! That really hurt.
I told you that would happen.
5,
Do be careful, that bowl's really heavy.
Whoops. Oh, I dropped it. Sorry about that. Don't worry. I'll get you a new one.
6,
Did you know that they eat horse meat in some countries? And snails? And pig's feet?
Oh, yuck! That's disgusting. You wouldn't catch me eating that.
7,
Look! Isn't that Peter over there, sitting on his own?
Hey, Peter! Come over here and sit with us. Let's have a chat.
8,
Tomorrow's test has been cancelled.
Phew! What a relief. Thank goodness for that. I hadn't done any revising for it at all.
All right, so let's solve them together. So number one, it's absolutely delicious, just the way I like it. Number two, you must be so disappointed. Number three, triplets, that will keep them busy. And number four, I told you that would happen. Number five, I'll get you a new one. And number six, you wouldn't catch me eating that. And number seven, let's have a chat. And number eight, we can say I hadn't done any revising for it at all. That's very good. Now let's take a good break before we move to Unit 9.